Welcome back, everybody. We are going to be in round 3, lobby 3 in TFT Fight Night Rising, presented by Giant Slayer. I'm Boopasaurus here with Rissakah, my wonderful co-caster, and it's been some crazy lobbies so far. This is still anyone's game. And remember, everyone, we're in set 3, Galaxies. I just wanted to bring attention to my shirt as I love it, and hopefully you guys do too. But let's talk about these lobbies because a lot has been going on. We got to see Candyland for the first time, which is that Poppy TF Zoe tier 3, and it did not do that well. Let's talk about why, Rissa.
So with that one, it's because now 3 stars, unfortunately for final, and the mana printer Sona just couldn't heal enough to get him to the top 4. And then also, we have been seeing Cybernetics as a very strong top 4 contester.
Mhm.
Nature's able to go first place with it the first game, and then Dreamericaa going third with it in the second game. And we are seeing the new buffs to comps like Rebels. So we see Brawler Blaster being very popular. Jinx carry seems very relevant all the games. And unfortunately, surprising, we didn't really see a Chrono KL be top 2 yet. So we'll have to see that if that comes out later or not. And then Gunmay playing his reroll comps with Space Jam winning second, the first one. And then trying out the new comp, the Poppy 3. Very exciting to see. Unfortunately, didn't top 4 with it. But we'll see that if he's able to come back and defend his title, or Nature's gonna take the bag and go first, and just win the fight night.
That I mean, and winning 2 lobbies in a row puts you in a very good position, and this is when I say, "You know what? Let's try something silly," right? You got a little bit of breathing room, right? Let's go ahead and see some Pikachus out there, right? Also, man, I gotta work on my phrasing on some of this. Anyway, so as we keep going on through these lobbies, let's talk about things that we haven't seen so far. So, not a ton of Chrono Kale, like you said. What is something that is contributing to that, do you think? Is it just because other people are looking for Kale? Is it because maybe Blade Masters, maybe the Valkyrie nerf is hurting them a little bit too much? But we haven't really seen any Kales do really anything so far.
Yeah, we've seen Kai Kills on the side. We did see Adreh play for a top 4 the other day, the other day, but the last game. So there's just, I believe that there's just too many Jinx players. I think the focus is on that because Jinx is definitely one of the like top first place, second place comp that you want to go for. And Chrono Kale, although strong and definitely something that I believe should be played, maybe it's a little too safe that people don't simply want to land the fourth or fifth range and they want to go for that OP S tier first place comps.
Mhm. Well, and gaming is all about min maxing, right? You want to know what the worst of the worst can be and what the best of the best can be. And with games like this, it's all about those numbers with a little sprinkling of RNG and luck. But it's so crazy to see how these players are so good at manipulating that RNG through leveling, through selling certain units, and by getting items to work in their advantage. What is something that you've seen so far that kind of has popped out at you in terms of impressive play for the first half, if you want to point something out specifically?
So both players, 2 players in the top 4 last time had stacked their ASOL. And that's something I want to see more often because I think itemization for ASOL is something that is very different in this meta compared to before. There's a lot more defensive items.
Mhm.
So I definitely want to see that again. Rebels is a composition that I'm very curious to see how they build from the early to all the way to the late game versus just from the start because it's not as before where you just int away all your health and you're just like, all right, at 20 health, 50 gold, the level 8, I'm just gonna roll down for my gameplay too. That wasn't the case here. We didn't even really see any gameplay. We just saw a giant tanky Acel dominating the meta. And then here we are jumping into game 3. So we'll see if we see any more Rebel players or not.
Yeah, that was a Ionic Spark, Dragon Claw, and Morello's Asol. But it was whatever it was. As the itemization is leaving my mind real quick, it was very very strong, and ended up winning that lobby. Is we're going into lobby 3. This is going to be crucial for our players between third and eighth place. I think that third place spot, even a little bit that second place spot, definitely doable for almost everybody in this lobby. Narquez and Final definitely need to finish in the top two, I think, to compete. But everyone from Gunmay to Sphinx, I think, and Dreamericaa have a shot at getting this top three, depending on how this goes down. And in the beginning, it's all about those items. We got a giant spot in a tier for Gunmay. For Gnard Dawg, we got just money for him, but sometimes that is something that you want. But let's talk about that right now, because I think that's something that a lot of early and new players might have some questions about, is when money is good versus when money is bad.
I mean, I have this, and just because I love econ, money is always good,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, 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 for sure.
But definitely, you don't want to low roll items. So by the time you hit Raptors, you should have between 10 to 12 components, 12 being the high roll, of course, and then 10 components being the low roll. And so ideally, you're getting items throughout all of it so that you're never really item starved either. So a mixture of both is always really healthy. But no matter what, so even if you get 3 items from the start, which is very normal, getting some gold in between there is always like a smile to my face. So we see here that Sphinx only has, I believe, 2 items because one item is still on his unit, or maybe he just has one item. And so in this case scenario, I would be kind of worried if I got more money in this one and maybe only one item, because you definitely want to slam some items early game. And
Yeah,
so if
we
you only have
were
two,
Yeah, we were talking about that earlier, especially if you're trying to win streak, as Adreh is consumed by darkness. Especially if you want to win streak, you want to build those items first. So if you're Sphinx and say you don't get any items for this round and you get some more money, what is the play there? Is it to lose streak at that point in time, or is it to kind of just like stay alive?
so a lot of times if I get a lot of money and no itemization, so the most important part is just seeing what units I have, right? If my units are strong enough, I believe I can push to, I would go for that win streak. But majority of the time, if I really don't have any items, I may have to take the lose streak route, which I hate. I'm a win streak player only, and I will, even if I lose the first 2 rounds, I will somehow try to find a way to win streak the remaining ones over. But without any really good items to make, or you low roll and you get 2 items from the start, then you may have to take that chance.
Alrighty, so we're getting into our first PvP round here at 2-1, and I think a lot of our participants right now have done a good job at two-starring their one-cost units, and that's something that you really have to take into account, especially going later into the game. And as I reference the patch one more time, one-star units are much easier to tier 3 themselves, as the 3D Pimpin is now following Miss Dreamericaa. Love the corgi, love it. Don't ever change.
So
But
I'm
now,
curious to
go
see how
ahead.
Dreamericaa does though for this one, because we did see that unfortunately she aced the first game and the next one top four. So we'll have to see if she, because we do have players in the past that constantly went 8-1, 8-1. So not very consistent, but still sometimes enough points to take them to the
Ooh,
top
look at
three.
this map. That was so cool. I like the item area, how like defined it was. That was actually really, really nice to see, as we see Nature's, who is our man on top right now. Double winner, 13 points twice, 26 points total. That's NA math for you, as he's sticking at level 3. So that's the other thing that I kind of want to talk about in terms of the early game, as we get a little bit of an opportunity to, is when to level to 4, when to kind of just let it do it passively.
So Nature's here was definitely in a dilemma since he did win his first round. So there's a part of you that definitely wants to win streak, right? But his board is not strong. He has a 6-2, and then he has a Mordekaiser. So nothing really amazing enough to really keep him with the win streak. So he didn't take the chance of securing it by
Mm.
leveling to 4. And then he also thought he actually has enough to go for 10 gold, but decided not to in order to kind of leave the option a little bit more open for him to tier 2 more units. Versus for me, I think I would have committed to a lost streak there just because I feel very weak. And I probably would have sold majority of my units in order to start econing.
Yeah, and I think that's something that is so counterintuitive to just people who are competitors, right? That losing sometimes is the way to go. I think you have to consciously make the decision to lose. And because I think naturally, even when you're in the middle of a loss streak, you win a round and you get a little happy for a second, but then you realize you've lost all of that interest that you were building because of that loss streak. And I think that kind of marks some of the great players in this community, is the people who are able to utilize lose streaking really, really well, because I think it's a really hard balance to make.
Yeah, I think that's actually one of the most difficult thing about the game is when you are going to lose streak. And I think it takes a very high skill in order to pull off. Just because, yeah, you can lose streak by just open forwarding or just putting like a unit in and nothing else. So the concept is a lot easier there. But with the player damage changing it once again, you could take so much damage by the time it hits stage 3 that it's really not worth it to do that. So you have to try to find a
Mhm.
balance where you feel like you are weaker than majority of the players, but you're still able to kill off some units so that by the time you get to stage 3, you're not at half your HP already.
And I think that's the whole Vanguard buff. I think helps with that on the early game in terms of those wet noodle fights, as I like to call them, where you have Poppy versus Poppy, and you're just throwing shields all over the place, and they last for so long. And when you're lose streaking, they patched this out a couple patches ago, where it was too easy to lose streak. You were rewarded too much for losing without a lot of counterplay, so they made it a lot harder to do. So you have to make sure that you are only losing barely, right? That you're only losing by one unit, or else you are just taking way too much damage. And I think that's something that happened to a couple of our players in our first couple lobbies, which is you start lose streaking, but then you find yourself, like you said, at 30 HP, at level 5 or 6, and that is not where you want to be. Is again, I think Poppy has probably become the most popular tier 1 unit. Already was very popular before a lot of the changes, but now with these Vanguard changes, Poppy super contested so far.
So Final has actually what I love the most as a early to mid game cybernetic start, which is where you got your 3 cybernetics, your triple combo of Leona, Fiora, and your Lucian, and then you get to put blasters and Vanguard in, Poppy being one of the strongest one cost units in my opinion, and then pull in that blasters with the red buff on Lucian. And I know we talked about it briefly, but the biggest change of why, I mean, I already love cybernetics prior, but I struggle a lot more last patch and this patch is because
Yeah.
Lucian's change so far has made it so much easier to streak with him. Just because the change, for those who don't know, is that if a unit dies while he's hitting it, it'll actually still continue his double shot, but it'll go on to a different unit. Versus before, it'll just cancel it and he has to restart to try to charge up his ability. And that small little mechanic change has made the world difference of Lucian just carrying these fights for me. So throw in that red buff and we just see him hit every single person and will win those early games.
All right, and we're seeing. I think we're gonna see Candyland once more, maybe even some Pikachu conf as well. As you got 2 tiers, now he just needs 2 bows, and why not? Well, because you want to win Fight Night Rising. But for me, I'd love it to see it, and we're going up against that cybernetic comp that you said you really liked. We got Lucian with a Giant Slayer
He hit the
already.
Lucian too as well, so
Two
that's a
six.
scary oof, this board's gonna hurt. Gunmay is what, 94 HP right now? And he takes, a
Yikes.
10 HP before even hitting Krugs. That's a oof for sure.
That's a feels bad man if I've ever seen one on a board. Like you see the illusion on the other side, and you're already like, okay, I lost. Let's think about the next round, which is going to be Krugs, and fingers crossed for the items that I want to see. But let's talk about the illusion change on how simple, like it was almost like a quality of life change
Mhm.
for a character like Lucian ends up in buffing a character. It's just like the amount of DPS you were missing when he was canceling that auto attack wasn't negligible. It was something that you felt and you saw in these comps. And sometimes when you lose a round by one auto attack, it's Lucian's fault. And so now that we've got that quality of life change, just like in the regular game, when a unit dies with his passive, it will go to the closest unit. It's thematically a lot better in terms of staying true to League of Legends, but he's pushing out way more DPS. And so if you've got things like sword breakers or red buffs, giant slayers, it's even more damage. So I just wanted to go over how a quality of life change can really affect a character like Lucian so much, something that you've obviously felt in your cybernetic games.
For sure, and we see it very relevant here too. Both Adreh and Final here have the Lucian, although Adreh does have a Lucian too, which is extremely strong to get before Krugs. But Final does have that perfect. He hit Irelia actually
Whew,
for
that's
level
crazy.
5, or sorry, he did move to level 6, and this is very interesting for me because Final is pretty poor. But he's pushing for that win streak, which is I do think it is a smart move. And but then we also see Dreamericaa here with her own Irelia, which is insane to me that 2 different players has hit Irelia on 3-1. So there's a lot of Cybernetics players going on right now.
We're gonna see Irelia's dashing around, probably staying at level 1 because you see finals Irelia. Same the items too, the IE with that last whisper, like we said, as we see the corgi come up. Oh, what a cute dog. One of the best breeds out there. it's going to be harder to 3-star that Irelia, almost impossible at this point if two of these players are already going after it, unless one gets really, really lucky. We've got Erica, who's been running Cybernetic for the third game in a row, was unable to complete really any of it in the first game, did a very good job in the second game, was, I think, outscaled just a tad by an
Was that
Acel.
a Leona that Gummy hit? I'm sorry. Let's talk about Dreamericaa first. Oh wait, no, thank you, producer. So Gummy here. Doing it again. I'm loving. He hit the Zaya. He's bringing me the
Oh,
Pikachu comp along with the Leona 3, Poppy 3, and Gunmay with the new patch reroll one cost. Look at the Zaya go.
I know. It's like the game is like struggling to animate the extra things. So we've got a Candyland plus a Pikachu. What would you name this if you had the chance to name a comp? And you're seeing this right now. Not to put you on the spot, but where's your head
You
go
convinced me
creatively?
before that Zaya is a bird, and so instead of Pikachu, she would be more like Zapdos.
Yeah, I love it.
So I like the name for that a lot more, the Zapdos comp.
And you got the word zap in it. It feels real good, right? And the Zaya at the tier 3 is gonna be super well protected because of that trap claw as well. You've got the Wukong sitting in the front too. That's gonna be some good CC, keeping that Zaya safe. And in case you guys are wondering why you would put a melee character in the back line and not the Zaya, because if there is a Blitzcrank, the trap claw would help. It's in case you don't want the Zaya to get rid of that trap claw off of that Blitzcrank right away. You're not going to find that value. You're going to find it much better somewhere else. And speaking of value, that Gravezolt actually could potentially turn it around a little later, but
Yeah,
not
but
right
just
now.
so satisfying just seeing that Zaya go off constantly. And the Trap Claw was very smart. The Vi did jump on her, but the Trap Claw protected Zaya for a very long time.
Yeah, and then stuns the Vi, and the Vi is taken out of that game. And this is where positioning becomes so very important. As fake food, thanks for following our friend Gunmay. Uh, and now we're getting into our third carousel. And we got some 4-cost units. We got a Kale. We got some Soraka's. No one really going Star Guardian this lobby, though, at least from what we can see from here. A good variety of items. What are kind of like the tiers here for what we're seeing?
So it's very hard to just because it's like depending on your comp. Do you have so for cases like or sorry, Team Erica, Dream Erica, she already has her 3 items on her Aurelia right now, so it wouldn't hurt to just kind of just get anything, maybe a 4 cost just to help her with the econ a little bit. Versus if you are struggling with itemization. So for example, Gummy, who wants more shifts on that side, will definitely be looking for a bow or a tier to complete it. Unfortunately, wasn't able to get it, but we will have to see if he's able to get that double shiv onto this eye later.
Does get the belt for one of the tanks as we're going over to Narkez, who is sitting in last
Ooh,
place. Definitely needs some good success here, but Zinzao 3 looks like it is on the board here. Some really good opportunities to play some Space Jam, as that's what we're seeing. 2 Rabadons on the Darius. We're welcoming the slam, but are we going to see the jam, Rissa?
I'm too concerned. Honestly, double death cap definitely gonna be jamming for a little bit. We'll see it right here if we see those slam dunks and come in. There is a Leona 3 on Nature's side, so I don't know. Well,
Oh,
actually, no, she's half health now, so it's enough to slam
there it
through.
is. And if you count to 4, Darius can as well. Welcome to the Slam. Choo Choo Ride It, one of the best songs ever for a movie. And we got the Space Jam online for our friend Narquez, who absolutely needs this momentum as he's sitting in the bottom 2 spots.
I am
Total.
concerned for him though, just because he is at less than 10 gold at level 5. And with Space Jam, ideally you're able to push to 6 to put in your Celestials as well, and to slow roll at level 6 in order to hit all your 3-star, which he doesn't really have that option right now just because he's broke at level 5. So we'll have to see how long that Darius can carry him over if he can go back to econing to get to that point where he level 6 and 3-star. But it's actually not looking great for him. I think Narcus is maybe trying for a top 4 play to squeeze in just to not bottom A is why he pushed through all his gold to try to hit some stuff.
Yeah, because the thing about win streaking here for him too is because he's at 53. If he loses, and he loses that income from that win streaking. It becomes so much more evident for him. The less health you have, every loss is just much more important. And when you're trying to gain money back, you can't lose, especially at 50 HP. So that's definitely something that we're going to see for him. As we got Narkez, who was able to win out that round. We got two people on fire. Dreamericaa once again. The cybernetic players doing a pretty good job. Dreamericaa hitting that Irelia too at 3-7.
She looks so
That's
happy about
yeah,
it.
you
You
should
can
be.
tell.
It's not it. You see it right now. It's 3-7. We just got to the NPC round, and you've got Irelia 2 with good items too. It's not like those items suck. It's not like those items aren't good on this character. GA and Irelia is just giving you a failsafe, a second opportunity for her to dash around, and we get a second GA for her potentially, or a Shojin's for Dreamericaa. She is sitting pretty right now and
It is
feels
insane
free.
though. Honestly, like even when you push your level 8, a lot of times you may not even have found Irelia yet, and most likely you haven't Irelia 2 yet. And she was able to achieve an Irelia 2 before level 7. And for a Cybernetics player, that's a dream situation with both the IE and, as you mentioned, Last Whisper and GA not being the worst third item for her.
And while the first lobby for Dreamericaa was a little bit more of a nightmare, it has a good dream this time around. Irelia 2 before the fourth rounds. That's nuts. That is going to carry you through a lot. I'm gonna assume that her portrait will remain on fire for the time being unless something crazy happens. Someone gets a big ult or that Darius dunks her out of existence, as we're looking at Adreh this time around. Cybernetics as well.
Yep, and he is the for one who hit that Lucian 2 very early on, and we still see that as very prominent and doing well. I see that he might be transitioning into a Jinx comp. We see some Rebels on his bench, and those are Jinx items. So the Lucian, amazing early to mid game, but most likely will be sold soon the second he hits that Jinx 2.
That's another thing I think for players that are learning the game have a hard time understanding is how a unit like Lucian can work so well for 7-8 rounds and all of a sudden fall off. It almost feels bad. Like I get attached to my units sometimes, and so I think that emotional attachment keeps
Oh,
me from selling some things as we get some more tier 3 units, this time for Natures, who's running his own version. Yeah, he's looking for some candy in the land as well.
I am extremely happy right now because I was talking to even Boo before the broadcast that I was really
Mhm.
hoping to see some either Pikachu comps or this tier 3 Poppy comp, and I wasn't sure just because it's been so new in the meta if they would take these risks. And this lobby, we got both. We got Gunmay with the Pikachu comp and then Nature's here during the Poppy comp, so I'm more than ecstatic right now.
It's so funny because I feel like Poppy is almost gaining health as as time goes on, even while she's getting attacked. Like, I'd love to see a mech, like a tier 2 mech, versus a Poppy, and just kind of see who wins out, who is tankier, because this Poppy with that Vanguard buff
Ooh.
is a wall. And look, tier 3, all the good units already.
Yep, he Nicoed his TF, which is the last one cost unit that you want, tier 3. And from now on, it's just leveling and trying to fit in 4 Vanguard. So very doable indeed. He's just missing a. Well, he hit the 4 Vanguard, so it's just replacing one of them with Wukong in order to proc Chronos instead.
And we got Narkez, our Dunkaroo. Do you remember Dunkaroos, by the way? One of the greatest candies slash cookies that has ever been
I do
made.
not know
Oh
Dunkers,
man, that's my
unfortunately.
boomer showing. Unfortunately for myself, eventually my wrinkles will be seen through the camera, not just the extra 10 pounds from quarantine. Anyway, Narkez is going to be our dunk master,
But I
Darius, for not
Irelia
so
too.
long. And so, why is that a thing, right? So, you got two big items on the Darius. You're sacrificing some meat by putting that AP on them. Uh, Irelia 2 comes through. Is Irelia 2 just that much stronger than a unit like that?
I mean, in this case scenario, it's only a Darius 2, and we're on stage 4 already. So with a level 2 epic versus a level 2, sorry, tier 2 common unit, then I think it's very fair to say that I would want the epic unit to beat the Darius. But it may be a
Mhm.
completely different story, though, if he were able to 3-star his Darius. Then I could definitely see the dunk power coming through and potentially slamming that earlier before the earlier has a chance to jump on it. A lot of times with these matchups, it's like a 50-50. Sometimes even if I'm doing a cybernetics or cybernetics, it's like if their Aurelia jumps on my Aurelia first, then it's like, oh no, my Aurelia is dead now, versus if my went on theirs first.
Yeah, and we got it looks like a red buff, which is going to be the item of choice for Dreamericaa. And as predicted, I want to kind of prop us up a little bit. We got Dreamericaa in first place on fire. Still, we said that she'd maintain that position based off of how early that Irelia 2 came about, but the lobby is getting a little closer in terms of power level, but she's already at level 8, 10-game win streak, so much interest, 40 gold. It's going to be tough to dislodge her, at least for the next 3 or 4 rounds.
Yeah, and again, a very interesting tactic that I might try myself as well. She doesn't have it this time, but normally she does run a Graves early, and then she always has a Darius, even by stage 4. So we saw it prevalent in the last 2 games as well. I think the idea is that you do run a little bit of Space Pirates, and Dreamer gets taken out by Adreh because of the Jinx too. Oof,
Ooh,
that's just
rock,
how
paper,
strong.
scissors. Sometimes that's just how the cookie crumbles, no matter how cute your corgi is. Sometimes you do end up losing that 10 win streak. That's a lot of gold that she's going to be missing out on, but at least she gets to keep that 50 gold herself. And we were wrong that time. I was just propping us up on how accurate we were, but Adreh comes through, who has been the most consistent player at him and Nature's through this lobby so far. But we got Gnard Dawg sitting at 4
Gnard
HP,
Dawg,
a
I
return
cry for
player.
him right now because he is running Chrono KL without a KL. So,
That's unfortunate for him.
oh,
And everyone just getting Irelias, I guess. So
yeah.
he's going to potentially get an Irelia too. There aren't that many left in the pool. So Dreamericaa, if she's going to be looking for that Irelia 3, needs Gnard Dawg to lose this round. And she's going up against him himself, and it might happen. And yes, it does. Gnard Dawg going to be running away, but he can't make it that far as the
Yeah,
galaxy is going to
definitely
take
a
him.
low roll. I'm not sure how much gold he ended up rolling on 7 or at 8, but not even finding 1 KL and having to have your GA Gwynsu's on a level 1 Kaisa definitely feels very bad. So.
Feels so bad that you got eliminated before Raptors. That is definitely not a place you want to be. Gnard Dawg also having a hard time developing points throughout the 3 lobbies, and this is a player that was invited as a return trip because of a top 3 placement last week. But I think the new patch may be a little bit too much to overcome for Gnard Dawg. We'll see if he's going to be able to make up those points on that next
Yeah.
round.
One thing is that definitely like with the because it was obvious that you were going for Chrono Kale at that point. So if you loyal to that extent, it's very hard for players to either roll and see something else and pivot to it, or you just keep the gamble and try to hit that KL eventually, which unfortunately didn't pay off for Gnard Dawg in that game.
And I think this is actually a really good time to talk about the Starside Invitational because we just saw Adreh sitting at 7 gold, and now we have Gunmay at over 50 gold, and that was something that we wanted to bring back into this was the difference between econing and rolling aggressively. And I think for the first time we have like kind of a split lobby in terms of who's rolling aggressively and who's econing right now, and it seems like both working and both legitimate strategies. And I love again the variability that Galaxies has provided so far in this particular patch. As well as I don't know if you guys have noticed, but we have had I think 2 total mech players.
Yeah, and it did not. I mean, they didn't go 7 and 8 holding hands, but they did go 4th and 5th. And after that experience, funny enough, they just gave up on it afterwards.
Yeah, the whole lobby did. And so now we got some Celestials online. I don't know about the double Rabadons. Yes, it's memery. Yes, it feels good when it gets pulled off. But as abilities get stronger, you just get bursted down so quickly. And those 4 large rods could definitely help on other aspects. What do you think about the itemization on the Darius?
I for me, I definitely like either maybe like a Seraphine. I don't mind the double Rabadon, so I think it pushes
Hmm.
a lot of damage and most likely will guarantee that slam dunk so that it does kill. But the only issue is that besides Rakan and Shinjao, he hasn't restarted any of his units yet, and usually Darius and Jace 3 are pivotal in top 4ing. But as you can see, I really do like the Rabadons. It's just guaranteeing those hits over and over again.
Goodness gracious. Unfortunately for Final, his unit's a little too squishy to withstand the Dunk Master Darius. You saw a lot of one-cost units, and with those 2 Rabadons, you're showing why it is good itemization. I just think it falls off a little bit too much, especially if you're unable to tier 3 that Darius.
For sure. And I'm very curious why Narcus was grabbing all those Mordekaisers, which is usually not as normal in the competition, to a certain extent, it's actually just stopping Naturescom from going too crazy because he's holding some Mordekaisers against him. But yeah, Mordekaiser usually, sure, it procs Vanguard, but it's not a unit you normally want to 3-star within Space Jam.
Or really anytime. Um, but I've tried to do some really funny things with Mordekaiser, like Hexblade, or or some AP just to get the shields bigger. I'm really into like trying to figure out why things don't work apparently, and none of those things work. And we're seeing Candyland work out for him just barely. Thank goodness that double Shojins was there, because without that last ult, it would have been over for our friend in nature.
And then we got some, the slam dunk is still going strong. Sphinx and Final going towards the. I like how every time I see them low, they're always right next to each other.
Yeah, even when they were playing mechs, right? Those were the
Yes.
two holding hands. But Adreh pushing out a pretty big lead right now. 72 for Adreh and 54 for Dreamericaa, who at this point I just think that first lobby was just a mulligan, because
Right.
she's been the out of the last two lobbies, her and Adreh have definitely been the most consistent. And Nature clawing his way back up. He's on fire right now as we got our completed items. It's always fun to see someone take a death blade, just to try to see where that's going to go and where that's going to stack. And she's already at level 9, friends. And looking at the other side, Narkez at level 6. All right, that's a huge difference.
I mean, with the Aurelia 2 on level 6, you just kind of have the infinite gold to push over to do the level 9.
Yeah, you're not using your gold to look for it. You already have it. And at that point, you're Scrooge McDuck, right? Diving into the money, trying to swim into it. And that's going to be Dreamericaa 4. And now, but again, another close lobby on the bottom side. The bottom side of this lobby much closer than the top side, with Final and Sphinx having a hard time staying alive here. Let's go ahead and go over to one of them as we see Sphinx with the IE, the Last Whisper, and the Bramble on the Lucian. Definitely looking to transition out of that at some point, but it might be too little too late.
Right. And then running 6 cybernetics here, in comparison to Dreamer Erica, this was where she was at on like stage 3 too. Like with how early she hit that earlier. But it seems like he did stabilize. He found the echo, so he hit the 6 cybernetics, and it's against the Pikachu comp, which
Oh, so close. If that's like a crit, that last feather, it would have been over for Sphinx, but Sphinx gets a little lucky there. And that's a comp that obviously works. I love seeing it. The double static shiv again is one of those tiered items. So once it hits level 3, it's going to be doing more damage, and you're going to be finding that at level 2, it's not going to be as strong. You have to tier 3 that Zayan. We got some thieves gloves on our Aurelian Soul, which is, like you said, a very polarizing figure in the community right now. Can we go deeper into that as to why he did get a mana buff, so he's going to be ulting way more frequently? But is it more on the rebel side, or is it more on the ASOL side as to why it's polarizing?
I do think that besides Rebels, though, you would never really run ASOL. But yeah, itemization on him is still something that I think of most players experimenting. Either to go for a very defensive approach, to go for a very, and then Sphinx got kicked out in the last round, unfortunately, the weaker cybernetics player. But yeah, so I think it's still in the meta where Rebels is a lot better, so you definitely want to run ASOL and just try and figure out if you want to build him aggressively or defensively, or if you're unsure, throw a Deep Skulls on him, because why not? He did get his buff and he's a stronger unit now.
All right, Candyland working out for our friend Nature, who might find himself another top 4 finish, maybe even another win. But Dreamericaa and Adreh sitting on top, 1 HP away from each other as a bloodthirster, which would be great for our cybernetic players, but not really that great for Nature. As we go over the item choices, Trapclaw, good stuff, just in general, good solid item for them. Warmogs, that could definitely be really helpful for Adreh.
Yeah, one thing with Adreh that I find very impressive is that he does play his early to mid game extremely well. And all 3 games he did top 4 is because he played it so well that he has significantly more health than other players. But it seems that the one trend is that towards these stages, like towards the end of stage 5 and especially stage 6, he starts falling off on his comps. And that's what ends up making him into a third to fourth place. So I'm very curious to see his early to mid game style and how he could improve to kind of boost that up into a first or second place. He does have very, very strong items on the misfortune here, and I'm ready to see her just go off Quicksilver and then two tier items make her almost insta ulting.
And that's one of the best ways to avoid her completely beefing it. But look at all the
Oof.
good stuff from the from that echo. That's one of those things that you don't really recognize as a way to stop ultimates like Vel'Koz, like Misfortune. But now, as I say, Vel'Koz, something that we're actually not seeing any of so far is Voids, which were kind of flavor of the month last patch. What is the big difference there for Voids, and why we're not really seeing our squid brawlers?
Well, Squid Brawlers was actually killed off last patch, but was very relevant 2 patches ago. Just in general, Sorcerers has been a little bit lacking. I have gotten destroyed by a Squid composition before, but I think due to the nerfs from the last patch and how irrelevant it was to the meta, people just hasn't gotten the chance to really give them a try again this patch.
All right, so I do love me some voids, especially from the very beginning of set one. But we're taking a little bit of a break for now as
Are
Narkez
you a
gets
voice
a.
in lover? Is that what you're telling me?
Haha! I will take that to my grave.
Oh no. Change of casters, please. I'm
I know,
kidding.
right? I'm sorry. I'll never forget. When I
Oh,
was
Gunmay gets taken out. His
when
Pikachu.
I was just starting Little Legends podcast, as I do a little bit of self promo. It was like before the community was as big as it is now, and we were talking about Cassassin, and Mort had just said something like just build Zephyr, and I got pissed. I was so mad that I like talked for like 45 minutes straight on how it's like just build Zephyr forehead, and then like here I go in all of my games I'm like spatula on the Cassidy. Don't build Zephyrs, please. And so I have very emotional towards that comp, and hopefully we don't ever get a comp like that. I think Rebels got really close to that, but I think we've avoided it so far. But look how tanky this A-Soul
He
is.
finally also hit a Dares 2. Those Rabadons are coming in now that he hit the Dares 3 finally. I was worried because that's the win condition for Narkez beating Adreh. Adreh once again played early mid game extremely well, but late game falls off and goes into fourth once again. And then Narcos, honestly, he hit what he needed. I was very worried for Narcos. I do think the double death cat was a very smart decision just to
Mhm.
guarantee it, especially when you don't have a tier 2 Darius. You need to somehow get him to proc. And now that he 3-starred, he's going
He's sitting
ham.
pretty. It's just so funny because like if he did maintain a tier two Darius, that yeah, it's gonna fall off real hard. But a tier two Asol, we're just commenting how tanky it was, but it didn't matter as one dunk from the dunk master was able to take him out, and that's like one of the worst ways to lose. Like just in general, even in League of Legends proper, like getting dunked on by Darius is like one of the most feels bad moments in gaming, at least for me. As we have the most stacked Leona I think I've ever seen in my life.
Yeah, so we have a AD Leona incoming here with I and Bloodthirster. Never before seen. And I'm actually very intrigued to see this battle incoming. Gunmay played it and was great with it, but this is a whole different set of itemization. This time, double Ionic on the Poppy and also double Shojin on the TF.
And the Ionic actually might be really good for this dunk. It's going to mean that the Darius is going to take some damage. Nice
Oh, the Darius
ultimate
just
from the
been stunned over
Soraka.
and over
Yeah.
again.
And that initial heal from the Soraka was just enough to keep that Darius in
Oh,
check too. So, but he's coming back. The GA definitely helping out. Is the war of attrition going to be run by this Darius, or has too much damage already been done? The polymorph, and doesn't kill the Soraka on the dunk. Everything going nature's way and takes out our Space Jam player.
unfortunate for
Whew.
Narcos because I think Narcos was in such a powerful spot, but he never expected this build to come in with the 3-star Poppy, 3-star Leona just tanking up those dunks, making it available for him to push through. But it was still a much closer fight than I expected. Darius tried holding through with all his Celestials, healing up whenever he could,
I know,
trying to
poor
push it.
guy. Well, we also have to talk about the fact that he did put in Nature's put in two Mystics there, and a lot of that does scale with AP as to why there's that double Rabadons, and you saw that Soraka live with just a
Yeah.
sliver of health, and you can guarantee that's because of that mystic trait. So good stuff there. As we have Dreamericaa still in first place, has been there for the most of the game, going up against this Candyland AD Leona comp that I've never seen before. And the W Onyx Spark is another great way to keep an Irelia in check.
Ooh, such close game there. So as we see that in the front line, the Leona and the Poppy does just so much work, but Last Whisper is just so good on the Aurelia that she was able to push through a lot of damage, and also the Echo 2 in the back line, which is a big weakness to the comp, I believe, since technically the composition is that you want the Poppy and the Leona to tank every single person up, but then if you have an infiltrator like Echo going straight to your back line, then you really start lacking your damage there.
Man, I just Bloodthirster, Infinity Edge Leona. Why not put the spark on her too?
I might put it on the Lulu. As much as I want to see this AD Leona pop off, I think having on the Lulu to try to get that Aurelia to get
Yeah.
polymorph would be the decision.
It's almost required, I think, for that Irelia to get
Mhm.
polymorphed at the
And
time.
then
Because
we
if it
see Nature's here actually grabbing 3 Aurelias just to make sure that although Dreamericaa is not in a close situation for it, it's still just guaranteeing that she doesn't get the power spike.
It's so funny that she's had the majority of this comp since 3-6, I think is when we saw her the last time. So sitting pretty again. And those good starts, sometimes you might not finish with the strongest comp, but you've developed such a lead. You give yourself a chance to maybe pull one out of nowhere. And at 7 HP, if Nature's loses, this will be it. Whereas Erica has, I think, one more shot. The Deathblade needs to proc though, and these Mystics, along with the Soraka, definitely making it really, really hard for Dreamericaa to steamroll. And the Poppy not taking any damage, it's going to be tough going for Dreamericaa. This Candyland comp might actually be the one that overcomes Dreamericaa in the end, and that might be a third top one finish for Natures. We are one round away from finding out who the winner of Lobby 3 will be.
Yeah, and positioning here was a lot better too. He's basically sacking his Leona, which is not as important as the Poppy surviving to tank the Last Whisper, and the Echo was unable to kill off the TFs this time. So both things contributing. I do think that I'm not positive. I'm pretty sure that the Shiv on the Lulu made a difference here, and trying to get that first polymorph off.
Definitely. And again, attack speed means earlier ultimates. And this is going to be the last round here on Lobby 3. This is going to be it for both of these players. You got a stacked Leona as well as a stacked Candyland at comp. The Infiltrator's Cybernetic Echoes in the back line, but gets stopped up by that Sleepy Trouble Bubble from that. Zoe does get the ultimate off. That's a really big deal. It seems like Erica having a little bit of a better time this time around, but the Echo unable to ult again. And the Irelia is starting to pop off with that IE, and she takes it in the end. Dreamericaa, winner of Lobby 3, taking the whole approach there. 8th place in Lobby 1, 3rd place in Lobby 2, 1st place in Lobby